As I was saying, this is a very interesting time in what we might call the Buddhist calendar, in the mythological side of the Buddhist calendar, where, as I was saying too, we have just celebrated Rohatsu, the moment of the Buddha's or Shakyamuni's great realization beneath the Bodhi tree. And I've always found this a very tender time, actually, in the wake of this experience of the Buddhas. It's often said that the Buddha remained seated beneath this tree for another 49 days, perhaps savoring or testing or inquiring ever more deeply into the nature of his experience, into the quality and potential and demand of his realization experience. And just for those of you who haven't already been swimming in the beautiful story of the Buddha's moment there beneath the tree, remember, there's so much to this story, I'll just touch on a little, but remember how he sat there all through the night, having made a vow to remain seated until he woke up fully, completely, entirely. And remember too that Mara, the personification of delusion or temptation or doubt, terrorized him through that night, saying things like, who are you? Who do you think you are to attempt this strange thing called realization? And now that you think that you have gained some kind of experience of realization, who is there to witness it? I, Mara, have a whole fleet, an army of people who can witness me. Who will witness your waking up? And it's then that Shakyamuni simply reached forward and down and touched the earth. And in some tellings of the story, it said that he said, I call on the earth to be my witness. How moving that the earth is called up to witness the great fact of waking up, the great fact that the earth, it is that actually wakes us up. And this is what I want to explore a little today. Beneath this Bodhi tree, wherever you are, in the shade of this Bodhi tree, seated on the earth, opening ourselves up to just what is happening, not pushing away, not reeling in, but just being entire. An ancient Buddha once said in a verse, the entire earth is the true human body. The entire earth is the gate of liberation. The entire earth is the single eye of Vairochana. The entire earth is the Dharma body of the self. How beautiful, the entire earth, the whole earth, nothing left out of the earth, is the true human body. Ask yourself, where does this body, this one, the one seated here on the cushion, where does it really begin or end? Can you find the beginning or ending of this body through time and space? Just like a mountain. Where does it begin or end? Or a flower? Or a river? Or the sky? When we really look and feel in our deepest meditation, can we really say, I start here, I end here, you start here, you end here? We don't know. And this seamlessness is actually as plain as day. It's so deeply intuited by each and every one of us. We know this. We know that we are inseparable from this earth. We know it in our bones. We know it in our blood. We know it in each and every breath that we take. In fact, Dogen said, if someone asks you why we do not usually notice the entirety of the earth as the self, just say this. Just say the entire earth is the true human body. You already know this. The great practice of Zazen, the great practice of Shakyamuni beneath the tree was to realize what he already knew, what we already know, what is so deeply familiar, it can be so easily missed. And I love this word familiar too. It's not just familiar as in I recognize you, although it is that. It's familiar in the sense of family, of kinship, of kind. The very root of kindness itself. The fact that we are not just all in this together in the glib sense. Although if we really look, perhaps there's nothing glib about that at all. We are all this together. This is who we are. The entire earth. This very body, this very human body. Without limits. And I love that this verse goes on to say that the entire earth is the gate of liberation. Every point of this world, every detail, every particularity of this world is the open gate of liberation. Many of you here will know that we've been exploring a beautiful sutra called Liberation Within Obstruction. And I won't explore the full extent of that, of course, in this talk now. But I will invite you into the main vein, if you like, of this sutra, which is the ability to choose just what is happening. Not resist what is happening, not try and improve on what is happening or change what is happening, but become what is happening and respond with that. This is the gate of liberation. The fact that whatever we encounter, whatever joy, whatever sorrow, whatever pressure, whatever grief, whatever torment, whatever ecstasy. All of these things are the open gate to find ourselves exactly where we are, in exact communion with the entire earth, leaving nothing out. Not the cries of this earth, not the laughter of this earth. We are earth-shaped. We fit this earth so entirely that the earth can only laugh and cry in this very human body. Came across a beautiful Spanish poet called Ernestina de Champollion. And in one of her verses, she just sings out. She just says, the love of each and every moment. In one breath, joy and torment. In one breath, the reality of centuries. In one breath, the thankfulness for being in the now and in the always. There's so much fullness here. Nothing's left out. Can you hear the earth entire in those very simple words? And I love that joy and torment are experienced in the same breath. The quality of our experience is beyond categories. It can't be sifted neatly into this or that. Not when we're entirely open, not when we're deep in the expansive landscape of Zazen. And I like too that she includes all past, present, and future here. She calls it the reality of centuries. And the reality of centuries is hard. The reality of centuries takes its toll. There are people and creatures very bruised, singed, erased by the reality of centuries. And yet in that very same breath of de Champollion's, she manages to do what is available in Zazen. She manages to find the gratitude even. Gratuitous it seems, unreasonable it can seem, but the gratitude for simply being. To find ourselves in spontaneous praise for just being here. Is that not the quality of Shakyamuni beneath the tree? When he looked up and saw the morning star and was seen by the morning star. Nothing of his life and torment is left out of that, and yet there is joyous praise, celebration of the entirety of life in that realization. And this, of course, links very much to where the verse then steers us or invites us to inquire. It actually says the entire earth is the single eye of Vairocana. The single eye, this very eye that, as I just mentioned, sees the morning star, is seen by the morning star, the eye that sees itself. This is the eye of Vairocana. Vairocana is usually described as the primordial Buddha, almost the Buddha of Buddhas, the original Buddha, Buddha nature itself. And when Vairocana first appears in what's called the Brahmajala Sutra, there's a lovely, very Indian description of this character. Actually, Vairocana describes himself. And he says this, he says, now I, Vairocana Buddha, am sitting atop a lotus petal. On 1,000 flowers surrounding me are 1,000 Shakyamuni Buddhas. Each flower supports 100 million worlds. In each world, a Shakyamuni Buddha appears. All are seated beneath a Bodhi tree. All simultaneously attain Buddhahood. All these innumerable Buddhas have Vairocana as their original body. So your body is Vairocana. My body is Vairocana. The chicken's body out there clucking away in their little coop. Vairocana. And I love this sort of impossible description of flowers blooming and Shakyamunis appearing beneath more and more Bodhi trees. This is really just another way of saying we wake up together. We do not wake up apart. The practice of realization is one of belonging, of no one missing, everyone counted, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of unrepeatable, miraculous beings, all taking part in this gathering. How marvelous. How marvelous to belong at heart with the heart of Vairocana Buddha. And even though that is so miraculous, how important it is then to see this. And the nature of seeing this, the quality of seeing this, to be seen by this, to be pierced right through by the eye of Vairocana. Vairocana's eye is always open. Open your eye and see. Again, I'm moved to include a line by Dogen here. And I find this very instructive, very inspiring, in fact, for our path. He actually just reminds us, he says, if your practice is not a practice with all beings, it is not a Buddha's practice. If you even remotely pretend that you are practicing for a small, isolated self, you're not on the path. You're not realizing the entirety of this earth as your own true human body. So, what is the nature of this? How do we experience this in even the time we're in? I talk about the mythological time of sitting with Shakyamuni in these 49 days of reflection. But unfortunately, we live in a time where these 49 days are often more aptly described as the silly season. A season where it's not so much Buddhas seated beneath the tree, but stuff, consumerist stuff stuffed beneath the Christmas tree often, instead of the entire earth discovering its natural place beneath the tree. So what is it like to live in this? How do we move? How do we respond to what can be actually quite a difficult time, the so-called silly season? I think this silly season comes actually with its own pressures this year as many of us step out of the demands of lockdown. There's an uncomfortable rush or return to, I guess, social obligation. One of the things that Sesshin, for instance, relieves us of is the demand of relentless social obligation. But Christmas is a time that work wraps up, family is calling and knocking. Lots of people want to see one another, of course. But this can be quite a pressure and can be maddening a way that can trip us up, trip us out of our stable place beneath this tree. But our practice in this time is to time and time again return to our stable place, return to the Bodhi seat, beneath our tree, whatever tree it is that we are sitting under. Now, the final part of the verse actually says the entire earth is the Dharma body of the self. The entire earth is the Dharma body of the self. Now this Dharma, what is this Dharma? It's a word that, of course, pulses through every step of our way along the path. Well, Dharma, of course, is pointing to the ceaseless law of change. The fact of one thing endlessly becoming another. It's also pointing to what is sometimes called the dharmas. Each particular thing is a dharma itself. Why? Because it expresses the ceaseless change of one thing becoming another. And our practice of Zazen is paying attention to this law, paying attention to the ceaseless change of one thing becoming another. And this is good medicine. This is good medicine, a way of healing the temptation or the knock we might have from apprehension of this truth of the Dharma. And this, of course, reminds me of the famous and great teaching of Yunmen's, the great Yunmen, who said medicine and sickness heal into each other. The whole earth is medicine. What is yourself? What is yourself? Your true self. How does the medicine of attention, the wholeness of this world, beholding that wholeness, reveal that sickness and medicine heal into each other? It's only when we hear the cries of the world that we can discover ourselves as the very medicine itself, find ourselves responding to the demands of each moment. It's only when we sit with the open, radiant state of Zazen that we can be available to these cries. Open to the fact that the suffering of this world is our suffering. Our suffering is the suffering of this world. There is no separation here. Nothing missing. When we truly, truly feel and encounter what is going on around us, then and only then are we moving with the world as the entire world. Not as a traveler, not as a tourist, but turning as the world itself. And I think I'll leave this talk with a beautiful teisho from Bill Neji, who I've just found recently just so magnificently touches on the quality of sitting beneath this tree. The quality of sitting in the ongoing fact of realization itself. This is Bill Neji's teisho beneath his own tree, which happens to be in Kakadu. He does a marvelous job of returning the very nature of the Dharma to this place, this country, in a way that I think is familiar in the best way. And you'll hear this familiar quality echoing through these words. So I'll leave you with this from Bill Neji. He says, I feel it. I feel it with my body, with my blood. Feeling all these trees, all this country. When the wind blows, you can feel it. Same for country. You feel it. You can look, but feeling, that make you. Feeling make you out there in open space. He coming through your body. Look while he blow and feel with your body, because tree, just about your brother or father, and tree is watching you. Earth, like your father or brother or mother, because you born from earth. You got to come back to earth. That's your bone, your blood. It's this earth. I'll leave it there.